I actually did vote for Wild Rose.
40 years of protesting in anger.
Yep.
Let's remember that.
Yep.
Always protesting in anger. And when you live your life based on anger and you finally get power, then everything you're going to do is going to twist sideways. Because everything you do is still based on that hatred and anger.
Why are you here today?
I came out to support the NDP.
And what do you think of what's happening here?
Well, they're boisterous. Yeah. We're surrounded.
But that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, they came by the busload. People who weren't working came out. I don't know.
Why am I here today? To hopefully make this government more accountable for their actions.
How so?
Well, the people of Alberta need to be heard, and so far, she hasn't listened to any of them. She chooses to ignore us, and she has since she's been elected.
In what particular issues?
Well, you know, in our future here in Alberta, for one, I mean, like no work. You know, every single day you hear about 100 or 200 or 300 laid off. Investors are leaving. You know, this government chooses to stand behind the statement that it's not their fault that the price of oil is where it's at. And I have never once at any rally heard anybody accuse them of that. But how they run this province is definitely their choice. That's what they're doing.
In the face,
and they have to be held accountable for that.
But in the face of falling world oil prices, what do you feel that they can do? I mean, after all, it is true that Rachel Notley doesn't set world crude prices.
Well, she doesn't set the world price, but you know, in some regards, I guess you could say that she controls our price internally to a degree, because our transportation costs are so high to get our oil out of this province. Without pipelines, we have a hard time competing with the world. We need pipelines to tidal waters.
Do you think
we need that?
Do you think there's any relevance to the fact that perhaps this government came in and had a lot to clean up from the previous administration, that a lot of the problems actually started with the previous administration and it kind of all fell on their lap when they were elected?
Well, you know, they definitely didn't fall into a government where it was going to be easy. I'll give them that. You know, we're going through tough times. You know, price of oil, and since we depend on it so much, right? I mean, it's going to be tough for the government. But to completely change our direction at this point in time, and to do it all with just increased taxes, we have to be working to pay those taxes. So if they choose the direction to go away from fossil fuels at the moment, who's going to pay the taxes to build all these windmills and solar panels and all these dreams? I mean, it takes time to do that. You know, we're shutting down all of our coal mines. Where are all those people going to go? Where are those towns that are supported by those mines going to go? We have some of the cleanest coal in the world in Western Canada. You know, they're starting up all these other power plants across Europe and whatnot. They're burning lignite, not even close to what our coal is like for emissions. I'm sure we could probably work on other strategies. I'm sure we need to go in that direction, but we don't need to do it in 2 years or 3 years or whatever and break our population. Where are we going to go? People are running out of unemployment. People are losing their homes, their farms, their businesses, their jobs, their lifestyle. It's got to come to some kind of a stop. You know, I agree that we need to redirect things, but I don't agree with the way they're doing it. What can I say? That's why I'm here.
And the plebiscites that are being signed today, what are some of the things that people are signing? And who is it going to be delivered to?
We are asking for a say on whether we get carbon tax or not. We're asking for a say on whether we put Bill 6 through or not. That's what the plebiscites are. And I understand there's another one for Bill 10. People are upset about Bill 10.
Although Bill 6 has already gone through.
Bill 6 has gone through, but it can be rescinded, can't it? Government put it in, they could take it out. You know, I mean, people of Alberta want to say. They want to be heard. They want to be seen. We don't want to be ignored anymore. You know, and it's obvious to me by this crowd that's here that we all want to be heard. You know, it's went from a few people with a voice to this, and it's going to get grander, I'm sure.
Lauren, can you expand more about Bill 10? This is one I'm not aware of.
Well, Bill 10 is like the LGBTQ, the schools. You know, they're telling us how we're going to deal with the parents and the children and gay rights and like that sort of thing. You know, I'm not really familiar with it. You know, religion, it all comes into play. A lot of people are very upset about it. You know, right now I don't have kids in school, so I'm not quite as up on it. But I do know a little bit about the bill. And you know, I think most people nowadays are pretty tolerant when it comes to gay rights, LGBTQ. We really are. I mean, there's so much of it. Most people don't even think about it anymore. Like, I don't see the prejudice in the public like everybody seems to say there is. You know, I don't believe that boys and girls should be going to the same washroom. That part of it, you're not going to convince me that's a good idea. I'm sorry. And that's not against any kind of people's rights. I think it's more of an infringement on everybody's rights.
I think there might be a bit of a misunderstanding about the washroom issue, because my understanding about that is it's like a one toilet, one sink washroom that anybody can use.
Well, that's what I mean.
Like,
there's so much misunderstanding. I guess it all needs to be clarified. But you know, people panic right away. You know, so to be honest with you, I'm not really clear on that bill. I mean, you know, I'm more clear on Bill 6 because I'm a farmer. You know, I worked in the oil field. I work in the oil field. You know, I've worked in safety and whatnot at other places. I've worked in coal mines. So I got a good understanding of what Bill 6 is all about, you know, and of course carbon tax. I'm not for it, I'll say that. Especially at this time. You know, people are hurting. Every day there's a new tax on something. I mean, God, we're going to tax sugar, we're going to tax tobacco, alcohol, registration on vehicles. You know, we've raised personal tax, business tax. How much more can we take? How much more can we take? You know, and that's just provincially. We still got federal's going to kick in. How much more taxes can we take? We're not working. You've taxed us into poverty. We have no jobs. You know, I'm lucky enough to be working, but for about 20% of what I was. I'm not going to complain about that because I have a job. But every single day I talk to people that don't. You know, I had a young fella ride up with me today. They just had a baby 4 months ago with serious health issues. He's got no job. His wife's got no job.
I'm here because there's, you know, for democracy to work, there has to be opposing point of views. And right now I feel like we have this group that wants to supplant our democracy, and I just want to let them know that there's other people that have different point of views, and that they don't speak for all of Albertans.
the person I was interviewing on the other side says that basically they're signing a bunch of petitions to try to hold the government accountable for what they see as the government not listening to them in terms of things like Bill 6 and Bill 10.
Well, I think for dialogue to happen, it has to go both ways. So the government has laid out their plan. They've talked about consultations with rural Alberta, with farmers and stakeholders and everybody who's going to be affected by farm safety legislation. And they've laid out a plan, and they've made it so that everybody who wants their say can either online submissions, or they're having consultation hearings from different stakeholders and ag boards, and so they have a process where they're listening. But to me, it seems like the other side's now the ones that aren't listening. The government said, hey, we're sorry for the misinformation, we made a mistake, but we're trying to move forward together. So now I don't think it's so much that the government's not listening, it's that this side just has their point of view, and they're just not willing to accept change.
They seem to feel that the government is responsible for the fact that so many people don't have jobs right now, that the economy is kind of not really good right now. And I told the person I was interviewing that Rachel Notley's not responsible for setting world crude oil prices, and he said that that's not what people are not necessarily accusing her of that. However, the government is just not doing right by so many people who are out of work. The EI is running out, and taxes are going up. Who's going to pay the taxes to start all of these windmill farms and everything?
So I find it interesting that we mentioned EI running out. So the federal New Democrats put a motion forward to expedite extending EI for laid off workers, and conservative members of parliament voted that down.
Right.
So that kind of shows really who has Alberta's back. It's more the political left. We understand there's a crisis. We're trying to help these people. In terms of the economy, well, a short history lesson. Saudi Arabia flooded the oil market in the early 80s, and we had a huge recession, and which is almost identical to today, right? Saudi Arabia flooded the oil market last year, and we're in a big... So it's not really the government that controls oil prices, it's the market, and the market's flooded, and there's really little any government could do to control it, right? That's the society we've chosen to live in, free market, and we go by the highs and lows of it. So unfortunately, we're an oil-based economy. It crashed, so we suffer those consequences. The problem really is the lack of diversification, and that they've made that their main focus, the government here, to diversify the economy. So to say that people are losing jobs and it's the government's fault and they're not doing anything, well, that's just not true. They're doing everything in their power. It's just unfortunately they were given very poor circumstances to work with.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope will come out of this sort of protest and counter-protest today?
Just open up dialogue, understanding. I mean, everybody has a right to express their views. I mean, everybody here certainly has a right to protest.
It's kind of weird being on the other side of the protest.
Oh, for sure. Usually, we had 44 years of left-leaning activists protest. I know I was protesting when Jim Prentice had his "look in the mirror" comment, and we want to talk about who ruined the economy. Well, it was our previous government, right? They didn't do what was necessary to protect us from this recession. We all knew it was coming. I mean, that's just the way our economy's worked since we discovered oil. It's boom bust. And they could have acted, but they didn't, and so now we're stuck with this mess.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.